Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tat Padam Tarshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Bolo. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Marupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sansita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sansita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. So we are in the first chapter, and if Mark was correct, he was keeping track. We're on page 10, verse 51b at the bottom of the page. Who's going to chant tonight?
I can chant.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
A little louder if you can.
Okay. 51b. 52b. Tadalam medhayanena bhuyo gatva dayanidham vijitgyasit gyasityo vichikitsam bhavu param param prapansaye shushubham guruva kalpamashritah. Therefore, enough of this intelligence. Going again to the storehouse of compassion, the Guru, with this deliberation and having invested what is to be searched for, I shall hasten towards the other shore of the ocean of doubt, resorting to the auspicious boat of the Guru's words.
So remember, Parashurama has been doing upasana for 12 years, worshiping the mother, and he remembers vaguely what Samvarta had said to him on the road, but he didn't understand it. So he has decided to return to his Guru Dattatreya and ask him these questions. Going on.
Iti vyavayasya sahasa jamadagnya shubhashayah pratasthe tadgirivarad Guru Darshana Kankasha. Thus, having resolved, Parashurama, having a virtuous heart, departed all at once from that excellent mountain of his desire to see the Guru.
So he leaves the hermitage where he's been doing his worship and heads back to the Tattriya. Going on.
Gandham Adanam Shailandram Prapya Shighram Apashyata Gurum Padbhasana Sinam Babhu Bhasvantamiva Sthitam. Reaching the Gandha Madana mountain quickly, he saw his Guru seated in the Padmasana lotus pose as a sun on earth.
So he arrives, and there is the Tattriya, absolutely peaceful, seated in meditation, with this inner glow, which is as palpable and as bright as if the sun itself were there on the earth. Going on.
Pranama Padapitha Puruto Bhuvi Dandavat Shirisa Pidayat Pada Apadham Nijakashritam. He bowed down before his feet, prostrating on the ground like a stick. He pressed his lotus feet held in his hand with his head.
So he does a full prostration. He doesn't just bend down and touch his head. He doesn't even get on his knees and touch his Guru's feet. He does a full prostration, laid out like a stick, grabs the Guru's feet and has them touch his head. So giving the greatest honor he can to his Guru. Now, there is part of the tradition in so many of our rituals and our scriptures, we worship the feet of the Guru. And there's a reason. If you've studied anything like reflexology, you find that a lot of, or virtually all of the nerve endings end up in the feet. So someone who's even like acupuncturists who are working on your body, oftentimes they'll work on something on your feet and then all of a sudden you go, you feel it in another part of your body. Because everything is connected into the nerves in the feet. Well, also the subtle energy, what we call the Shakti, travels through the feet of the Guru. So frequently you will find in the literature, the student is wanting to touch, worship the feet of the Guru. Now, if you don't have an affinity for those subtle, energetic kinds of things, you can also look at it from the standpoint, water flows downhill. Rivers never flow uphill. Knowledge always flows downhill. So if we want the wisdom of the teacher, we need to have the attitude of humility, of surrender. So always these physical postures of pranam, namaskars, are gestures of great humility as well. All right, next one.
Tathaivam pranatam ramam tattatreya prasannadhihi Ashirbhiyo jayamasa samuthapayadadarat. Then Dattatreya, with a delighted mind, bestowed his blessings on Parashurama, who was bowing down to him and raised him up with regard.
So Dattatreya opens his eyes. He sees Parashurama. May have just felt his presence. Blesses him. And then raises him up. Immediately can tell, aha, his mind is so much more pure than it was 12 years ago. Going on.
Vatso tishta chiradadhya tvam pashyami samagatam bruhi swatmam bhavam vrittam niramayataya sthitam. He then said, Son, get up. After a long time today, I see you who have arrived. Tell me the events that have occurred to yourself and whether you are living without illness.
So after a long time, today I have seen you come. So it's been 12 years. And today, now Parashurama has come. He's delighted. Sit down. And then he asks about his health. How are you feeling? I hope you haven't had any bad illnesses. Going on.
Athothaya guru vakya sa gurur drishtagraya vrishtaha upavishya prasannatma buddhanjali puto bravit. Then, having risen up by the words of the Guru, directed to the foremost seat by him, and having sat thereon, he spoke with a delighted mind, joining the hands together in salutation.
So he greets him, sits down, and now he's going to ask his questions. Did you need to take that phone call, Puneet?
I was in my phone.
Okay.
Right, go on.
Go on.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindho Tvatkrippamrit Aplutaha Katham Sa Paribhuyeta Vidhisishtair Ratmayahi. Gracious preceptor, ocean of compassion, how can one who is immersed in the nectar of your kindness be overcome by diseases which are even brought about by Brahma, the creator?
Yes. So this is poetry. So he's saying, even if you're really sick, just being in your presence, I'm not concerned about the vicissitudes of the body. And there's other things implied here. You know, frequently, even when we're in our ordinary lives, if we're focused on something or concentrated on something, the little aches and pains of the body tend to disappear. So this also indicates that his mind was completely focused on the Guru. Next one.
Tvatkripatmamrita kara mandalanta sthitam tumam santapayet katham vyadhi chanda shurati bhishanaha. How can physical ailment, terrific like the sun, torture me who am staying within the orb of the nectar-rayed moon in the form of your compassion?
Yes, same idea, just more beautiful poetry. Going on.
Antaram brahmapite kripaya anditam mama sada sthitam kintu bhavat padab javiyutum vina nyanya drujavaham kinchit dasimne leshata kvachit tad tadbhav cha ramana bhoja darshanadhya vaipunaha sampurnata samapanna sarvatha Shri Guru Nanu tata kinchit chit sanvrittam hridi me parivartate. My body and mind are always remaining happy by your compassion. However, accepting the separation from your lotus feet, Nothing else, whatever and wherever, was producing pain even a little. Then, by the sight of your lotus feet today again, fulfillment has occurred in every way indeed. However, some old occurrence is revolving in my mind.
So he's finished giving his praise and blessing to the Guru. The only thing that could possibly afflict me was not being near your lotus feet. Now I'm here, but I have some doubts. So now he's going to ask his Guru questions.
Tat prishtam त्वाभिवाक्षामि चिरसंशयतान्तरः अज्ञाप्तो भवताद्याहं पृच्छामि विचिकित्सितम्. I wish to ask you about that, my mind being doubtful for a long time in the matter. Permitted by you, I shall ask about that doubt today.
So he says, I've had these doubts for a while, and now I think I'm ready to get an answer. Going on.
Sanshrutyaivam bhargavoktiktam tatreyodayaadhinihi samprahrishtamana rama muche prityatha bhargavam.
I'm just readjusting my thing. Go ahead.
Having heard thus the words of Parashurama, Dattatreya, the storehouse of compassion, whose mind was extremely glad, spoke to Parashurama with affection.
So Dattatreya now sees that Parashurama's mind is subtle enough to start asking the most important questions. Going on.
Prich-bhargava yattedhya prishtavyam chirasambritam tava bhaktya prasannosmi prabhavimi tavettitam. Parashurama, ask now whatever is to be ascertained which was carried by you for a long time. I am pleased with your devotion. I shall tell you what you wish for.
Yes, so he's now pleased with his surrender, his devotion, is aware of his purity of mind. Ask away, young man. Going on.
That ends the first chapter, chapter 2.
Okay, next chapter.
Dvitiyodhyayah, chapter 2. Ityagyapto jamagdangyah pramanyatri sutam munim prashrayan vanato bhutva samprashtum upachakrame. Thus permitted, Parashurama, the son of Jamagni, saluting the sage Dattatreya, son of Atri, and bending down with respect or humility, began to question him.
Going on.
Bhagavan Gurunathaya Sarvagya Karunanidhe Pura me Nripvansheshu Krodha Karanato Hrubhut. Lord, revered Guru, all-knowing one and storehouse of compassion, formerly anger arose in me towards the kingly race due to some reason.
So he's having a hard time kind of even remembering why he was so enraged. Or there was a reason I got angry, but he was filled with rage. So he's acknowledging his dosha, his own defective character, that which was agitating his mind. Very important. We can't do our yoga hanging on to ideas of being a goody-goody. I frequently tell people, don't try to be spiritual. It's far more useful to strive for authenticity. Because if you try to be spiritual, you're likely to try to superimpose some idea of being a nicey, goody-goody on top of your ulcerated mind. It doesn't work that way. And what will happen is at some future point, there's going to be some sort of a blow up. You're going to act out in some way. You're going to rage at someone or go out and get loaded or do some way to release the pressure of suppression. So yoga invites us to be perfectly okay with imperfection. So we have to be willing to tell the truth about the material that's in our minds. There's a slogan that I really like. We are as sick as our secrets. The first real demonstration of our willingness to give up egoism, ideas of a personal sense of self, is our willingness to tell the truth about what's going on in the mind. So here Parashurama is copping to it. He's telling the truth. Yeah, I was filled with rage. The cause doesn't even really matter. I was filled with rage. Going on.
Tadbhuyo nihitam shatram sargabha sanstitandhayam mayatri saptakritvo vai ksatra sangribharatay hride santarpita pitrigana tushta madbhakti gauravat matkrodham shamayamasu shanta pitragayapyaham Sampratyayo dhyayam dhyaste yah Shri Ramo Hari Swayam Krodhan dhastena bhuyoham Sangato baladarpitaha. Consequently, the Kshatriya race was killed by me 21 times, including suckling children and fetuses. My departed forefathers were pleased by libations offered in a lake filled with the blood of Kshatriyas. Pleased with the magnitude of my devotion, they appeased my anger. I became calm, ordered by the forefathers. At present, Sri Rama, who is Lord Vishnu himself, is dwelling in Ayodhya as its king. Blinded by wrath and proud of my strength, I again joined him in battle.
So he's a pretty brutal guy, killing infants and children and collecting their blood. And then he hears about Ram and says, oh, there's another one of those darn Kshatriyas. I'm going to go after him. Bad mistake. Let's see what happens.
Tena darpad bhagavata javitascha parajitaha jivan kathanchi ninyarto brahmanyena nukampina. I was defeated by Lord Rama and deprived of my pride. Somehow I came out alive on account of Rama, who was friendly to Brahmanas and possessed of compassion.
So what happens to him is he has a humiliating experience. So I have news for us all. The path to self-realization is filled with humiliation. Think. What is humiliation? It's the deflation of pride. It's the deflation of ego. It's the destruction of some sense of self with which I'm identified. And all of it has to go. And if we don't let go, we will be dragged. So it's always filled with moments of humiliation until we start to embrace humility. So here, Parashurama gets a big dose of it. But Lord Ram is very passionate, didn't want him dead, wants him ultimately to come home to the infinite. Going on.
Atha mamupasamprapto nirveda paribhavitam tato yantya pathi maya bahuda paridevitam. Then despondency came upon me, who was humiliated.
So he got very despondent. Can you speak a little louder? Your voice has gotten soft again, Puneet.
Let me check. Oh, I don't know why my volume keeps reducing. Then despondency came upon me, who was humiliated. Consequently, I lamented very much repeatedly on the way.
Yes, so he gets his dose of humble pie and laments it. He's no longer thinking of himself as a big shot. He has to take off his t-shirt with the Superman S on it. Going on.
Samvarta vadhudetam margaskasmat samasadam bhasmachan nigvada gudham kathanchit vidam tada. On the way, I unexpectedly met with Samvarta, the great ascetic, hidden like fire covered with ash. Then I found him out somehow.
So by a chance meeting, and of course to meet a man of wisdom or a woman of wisdom is never really by chance. This is all the Lord's grace and the result of punya, of karmas from many, many lifetimes. It seems coincidental that we meet a man or woman of wisdom. So he gets a chance to meet Samvarta. Going on.
Santapta iva niharam tam samvarga shushilatalam sangam ye vati shishira bhava masadayam tada. Coming together with him who was extremely cool or calm in his entire person, as a burnt person meets with heavy dew, I obtained a state of great coolness.
So we have this phenomenon which can happen. If we are fortunate enough to be in the presence of a man or woman of wisdom, we get what Swamiji used to call a borrowed glory. We can feel the presence, this overflowing that emanates. As agitated as we may be, come into the presence of the Guru. And everything kind of falls away. So Parashurama is aware that Samvarta is not an ordinary person. There's something special about it. Going on.
Maya swasthe te ma prishtaha prahamrita supeshalam tusara pindivat sarvam nishkriya pratyapadayat. Asked about his state by me, he spoke beautifully and softly. He expounded the spiritual truth, extracting everything like a compass mass of the essence of spiritual knowledge.
Yes. So Parashurama wants to know, how is he so serene and peaceful? What is his state? Samvarta, calmly and quietly, tells him about the ultimate truth. Simply, who you are is what God is. Quieten your mind and look within. Discover who you are, and you'll find out who God is. And all your doubts will be answered. You'll find peace. You'll find content. But Parashurama is not yet subtle enough to receive. Going on.
Naham tad shakam srishtam ranko ragni yatha tatha bhuya samprarthita sotha bhavantam me vinishridam bhavantam me vinishtishat. I was not able to take it as a beggar a queen. When prayed for again, he indicated you to me.
So Parashurama could not understand it, could not receive it. He asks him again. Samvarta says, I'm not your teacher, basically. You go up the road to Dattatreya. Going on.
Tadbhavacharana dvandam tat asaditam maya andho janasamaya yoga andho janasama yoga mivat yanta sukhavaham. Therefore, your feet were met with by me then, like a blind man uniting with people, producing great happiness.
And so he meets him, and he's again recapitulating their first meeting of 12 years prior. Going on.
Tanme na viditam kinchit sarvatam punirahyata shrutam mahatmam amalikam tripura bhakti karakam. What sage Samvarta told me, that was not understood even a little. The entire gospel or greatness of Tripura, which produces devotion to Sri Tripura, was heard by me.
So he didn't get an understanding of Samvarta's teaching. Instead, he was given the instructions for worshiping the mother. Going on.
Sa bhavadrupini devi hridi nityam samahita evam ve vartamanasya kim phalam samavapyate. The goddess, incarnate as yourself, is ever settled in my heart. What fruit is obtained by me existing in this manner?
So she's now in his heart, and the Guru is simply a manifestation of her and her wisdom. So that's why he's back here. Going on.
Bhagavan kripaya bruhi yat samvarta puravadat aviditva cha tannasti kvachitya kritakrityata. Lord, tell me out of compassion what sage Samvarta said earlier. Without knowing that, there is no satisfaction anywhere.
So he wants the Tattriya to explain to him what Samvarta had said to him all those many years ago. Going on.
Taduktam viditva tu yadhacha kriyate maya tadbala kridanamiva pratibhati samantataha. Whatever is done by me without understanding his words, that wholly appears as a child's play.
So he is beginning to get intimations that he really needs to know what Samvarta was talking about. That's the deeper wisdom. And, he loves having worshiped the goddess, but in this verse he calls it's kind of child's play compared to what Samvarta was talking about. Going on.
Pura maya hi bahurasha kratubhir dakshinochayehe prabhutan ganairishta deva shakrum ukhananu. Formerly, the celestial gods, having Indra as their chief, were indeed worshipped by me repeatedly through sacrifices with gifts of exalted quality and abundant food offerings.
So now he's talking about his prior forms of ritual sacrifice, the pujas that he did before. Going on. Before we go on, let's talk a little bit about puja. So when we think of the devas, the gods, the demigods, in the tradition, the deeper mystical symbolism of them, they are the presiding principles over aspects of human endeavor, the forces of nature, or sometimes the sense objects. And in that classic form of sacrifice and of puja, what we do is through sacrifice propitiate the deity. Why? So we can get what we want. So it's a transactional thing. The god becomes pleased by our ritual, and then we get a boon, we get some favor from the divine. That's the lowest form of upasana, of worship. The higher form is we worship the god simply out of our love for the god. The example I like to use is a teenager going home to see his or her parents with a bag of dirty laundry in the back seat. And as soon as he walks through the door, he says, "Mummy, what are we having for dinner?" He wants home-cooked food. He wants Mummy to do the laundry. And later on, he's going to go into the study and ask Daddy to write a check. That's what college kids do. But years later, same child will come home, doesn't want anything from his parents, may even bring them gifts. That's because he loves them. So that's what happens in our maturing relationship to ritual. The beginning is, "Oh God, get me out of this scrape. Oh God, let me pass this test. Oh God, bring me a right husband or wife," etc. But later on, it's just for the love of the divine. So here, Parashurama is talking about previously, he just worshipped the gods, probably because from a Brahmin family, that's what he was taught to do. This is what we do in our family. And how attentive he was to it, who knows? Going on, next verse.
Pura maya. No, sorry, I think I read this. Tadalpa phalame veti shrutam sarvata vakratah manye tadham alpayat dukham eveti sarvatha. I have heard from the mouth of Samvarta that they were only of trifling results. I consider that which is insignificant as only painful in every way.
So if you're propitiating the gods just to get stuff, gross or subtle, or to expiate your papam and to accrue punya, Samvarta says basically that's trifling. It's not what it's about. Now again, the scripture is not telling us to abandon ritual. And it's telling us to abandon ritual. It all has to do with the state of mind you're in. Doing ritual, going to church if you're a Christian, or to the synagogue if you're Jewish, or the mosque if you're Muslim, it doesn't matter. These are practices we do, again, to quieten the mind and purify the heart. But they are the lower form of practice, not the higher. Going on.
Asukham nahi dukkham syat, dukkham alpa sukham smritam, yatha sukhatyaye dukkham, bhavet guru taram kila. Absence of happiness cannot be sorrow. A little of happiness is considered as sorrow, since on the passing away of that happiness, there would be indeed greater sorrow.
So we have these pairs of opposites, sukham dukkam cha. Happiness, sukham, pleasure, suffering or sorrow, dukkam. In fact, they're the same thing. What? Because both terms relate to mind states we get by being attached to the fruits of stuff in the world, people, places, things, and conditions. And in order to get them, first you got to work really hard. Kartavya, things that must be done. I've got to do this in order to get what I want so I can be happy. And it doesn't work all the time. And even if you do get what you want, it doesn't last. It always passes. And even if it hangs around for a while, there's the law of diminishing return. Someone gives you a box of C's chocolates. The first one brings you great joy. But if you eat the whole box at one sitting, the last one makes you want to vomit. So what the scripture is saying to us is, if we approach the world with this longing, this spriha, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, I need, I want, I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I gotta get it. Even if we get it, we're afraid we're gonna lose it, or it runs through our fingers like water. So here Parashurama has seen the futility of this. I like to say pleasure in the world, it's 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of happiness. It's a bad economy. And it's so boring and it's so repetitive. So to think we can find happiness not wedded to sorrow is foolishness. The two are just two sides of a coin. They're the same thing. Going on.
नैतावदेव चैतस्मात् अधिकं चास्ति वैभयम् मृत्युमु योगो यत् भूयो न तन्न स्यात् कदाचन. Not so much only, there is indeed fear which is greater than this. That which is not of service to death, that is, does not contribute to death, greatly cannot exist at any time.
So this death about which he's speaking, of course, there's the mortality of the body, but there's also the death of every experience. Everything is temporary. And I tell you, a human life is so incredibly short. Incredibly short. Even when you live 60, 70, 80 years, it goes by in the blink of an eye. Going on.
एवमेव भवेद्यन्मये क्रियते त्रिपुराविधौ बालक्रीडेव मे भाति सर्वं तन्मानसं यतः. Whatever is done by me in the upasana or worship of Tripura is exactly so. All that appears to me like child's play since it is mental. Note, upasana refers to methods of meditation coupled with religious rituals in the procedure for worship.
So even though he would have moments of getting blissed out, doing this upasana, you get up one morning and you do your ritual and you don't get the juice. Am I doing it wrong? What's the matter? And even if you do get the juice and the ritual's over, now what am I going to do? And then something in the world comes along and interrupts what we're doing. It's not permanent. It is a mind state. So if our juice, our joy, our high is dependent on some mechanical experience, it could be doing pranayama, it could be singing the Lord's praises, it could be doing japa, it could be going to Mass. It could be going to a Sufi zikr and turning. All of these are good, but they're temporary. We're not talking about an externally or mechanically induced mind state. So we want to, again, see that this is a sequential paradigm here. we do various methods to attain what we would call a sattvic mind, which then becomes the instrument for what we're going to call atma vichara, self-inquiry. But the preliminary activity is not the goal in and of itself. Any thoughts on this? All right, going on.
एतद्यद्युक्तं भवता कर्तुं तत्स्यादितोऽन्यथा अन्यथा नियतं चाप्यनन्यथा तद्वचो भेदसाश्रयात्. This upasana which has been prescribed by you to perform, that can be in a different manner from this, fixed in method or otherwise on accounts of its dependence on the difference in the precepts of scriptures.
So he's talking about, okay, you instructed me in the Sri Vidya, the worship of the goddess, but other people have other rituals. There's no consistency to this. One set of Brahmins said, no, this is the right way to do it. No, you're doing it wrong. This is the right way. People who are caught up in rubrics. Going on.
Alamba bhedanaschapi vividham pratipadyate kathametat kratosammasya satyam phala sammitam. Even on account of difference in recourse, such as mystic symbols and images used for upasana, it is performed variously. How is this upasana, which is similar to ritualistic sacrifice and settled for an unreal result, practiced?
So people are doing it differently. Are they getting different results? There's no constancy to it. What he's yearning for is something that's a perfect goal. It's not dependent on time and place. It's always available. But in the end, takes no struggle, no effort. Where can I find peace? Where can I find real contentment? Going on.
Apya satyam atmakam yasmat katham satya samam bhavet athapi nityam kartavyam etannasya vidhi kvachet. Also, since it is of the nature of falsehood, also, since it's of the nature of falsehood, being a mental act, how can it be equal to truth or the true path? Moreover, this upasana is to be done every day. There is no limit or conclusion to this somewhere.
So this idea of needing to do it over and over again to get the result. How can it be of anything enduring if it's dependent on me performing the ritual? Now let's expand this idea. Is your happiness dependent on any action that you must continue to repeat in order to be happy? I was talking with a dear friend today, and he and his partner love to go on cruises. And of course, with COVID, nobody's going on cruise ships. So they've got one scheduled for next September. And cruise after cruise they go on. This is how they vacation. But it always ends. And then they keep wanting to repeat it. Nothing wrong with going on cruises. But the happiness is so short-lived, so fleeting. And it's with any endeavor. Does this mean, Jim, we should never do anything? No, the scripture says in the end, give up all ego-prompted actions. Meaning we want to smash the idea. I'll be happy when. And again, here the author is using the term kartavya. Duty, obligation, things which ought or must be done. We don't mean that, okay, this is like what I have to do when I go to work, but I really need to get a raise. I really need the promotion. It'll all be different if I get a house rather than an apartment. You know, I've been renting. If I buy, it'll be better. And again, this doesn't mean not to have career goals, etc. But in the end, we want to wear our lives like a loose garment. Serve the society. Be useful, not greedy. Next one.
Rakshito me sa bhagavan samvarta sarvashitalah kartavya lesha vishama vishavjavali virnavgataha. Lord Samvarta, who was cool or calm in everything, was seen by me. He was the one who had come out of the flames of the dangerous poison of even a little of obligatory works.
So here the author is translating kartavya as obligatory works, where I need to do stuff in order to get happy. And he's used this wonderful term, shitalaha, which means to be cool. And none of you are old enough, but way back in the hippy-dippy days, you used to have this expression, oh, be cool, dude. No, we wouldn't say dude. Be cool, man. That's what we used to say. Or if you've ever seen West Side Story, stay cool, boy. Back in the 50s, it was a beatnik term. But it's much, much older in yoga. So our minds are not fevered by agitation and anxiety and fear and avarice. Our minds are cool. There's nothing that needs to be done. Next one.
Asinnav lokatantram abhayam margamashritah vane davagni sankirne imam buddhaga jopamaha. Resorting to the path free from fear, laughing as it were at the course of the world, he resembled an elephant stationed in cold water in a forest shattered by a forest conflagration.
So Samvarta moved through the world with no concern, laughing. I was talking with my dear friend Vilasani Balakrishnan some time ago, and we both remarked on the fact that Swamiji found people very funny. He laughed a lot. He laughed at our silliness. He laughed at the human condition. It's a wonderful metaphor. There's a forest fire, but this powerful elephant is sporting in a river or a lake, not at all concerned about the fire. How many more verses do we have in this chapter?
Quite a lot. We're on.
All right. I think here's a good place to stop for tonight. What number are we on, Puneet?
We finished 26.
So we're chapter 2, starting verse 27 next time. All right, we have time for questions now. They can be about anything we've covered in the scripture or any doubt you may have on any part of your practice.
Jim, I had a question.
Say who it is when you ask the question, because I can't see your faces.
This is Uday.
Okay.
Right. So my question is, so in the verses that we studied today, there's this transition that happens where he says that I have been engaged in these mechanical activities so far, and I somehow don't see where this is going or how it can lead me to something permanent. So, transposing that on our own sadhana and our own practice, is this something that sort of happens automatically, that you get the instruction for the next phase? Or, where I'm a little unclear about where personal effort or purusharth comes in this transition.
That's an excellent question. And I have implicit trust in your intuition. You'll know. First of all, because it won't be giving you the joy that it used to. Its joy will be little. Did you ever go out to the clubs and go dancing when you were an undergraduate college kid and a
Yes.
youngster? Did
Yes.
you?
Yep.
And probably drink beer and get a little smashed on the weekends?
Well, not really, but
you went out dancing.
yeah,
Do you do that now?
not at all.
What happened?
It stopped being fun, right?
Yes. So we are healed not by what we turn from, but by what we turn to. Don't worry about it. If doing upasana brings you great joy, continue to do it. But if beginning to study this jnana portion is firing your mind and exciting you, then, well, follow it. Follow it.
Okay, thanks. I think that's useful.
But I can't give a pat answer. But you will know. You will know. And part of what the guru does is also encourage you to trust your own innate wisdom. Because guess what's going to happen to the guru? He dies. And what do you have left? Always. You want to be free, independent of any external support in the end. Excellent question.
Thanks, Jim.
And it can happen at different times of your life. You know, it's circumstances you're proud of will move you where you're supposed to be. Any other questions?